Welcome to the Study IQ English Speaking Podcast community, your dedicated space for daily English practice and enhancement. In this episode, our focus will be on refining both your listening and writing proficiencies through immersion in authentic, real-life narratives. These stories are carefully selected to provide you with a deeper understanding of how individuals communicate in a variety of everyday scenarios. By the conclusion of this session, you will not only have sharpened your auditory comprehension but also gained significant confidence in your writing abilities. We encourage you to show your support by pressing the like button, and if you are new to our community, please don't forget to subscribe for more valuable English learning content. Now let's delve into the heart of today's topic. Our first story today introduces us to a gentleman named James. James resides in a quaint little town and dedicates his time to educating young minds as a teacher. One fine morning, with culinary inspiration in mind, he decided to visit the local market in search of some fresh, seasonal fruits and vegetables. His intention was to prepare a special, heartfelt dinner for his beloved wife. As he ambled through the bustling marketplace, his attention was drawn to a woman thoughtfully displaying a vibrant array of apples. She offered him a warm smile and a friendly invitation. "Would you like to sample some of these apples? They possess a delightful sweetness." James returned her smile and carefully picked up a few of the inviting fruit. His curiosity piqued regarding their freshness. He inquired, "Could you tell me where these lovely apples originate from?" The woman responded with pride. "They come from a local farm, not too far from here. The soil in our region is particularly conducive to growing such flavorful apples." James felt a sense of satisfaction, knowing he was supporting local agriculture and acquiring such fresh produce. This prompted him to purchase a larger quantity than he had initially intended. Having completed his shopping at the market, James returned home and enthusiastically began the preparations for dinner. He decided to make his wife's most cherished dish, a simple yet incredibly delicious pasta, accompanied by a medley of perfectly roasted vegetables. As they sat down to enjoy the meal together, James remarked with a smile, "I'm so glad I decided to buy those apples. They've truly elevated the taste of the entire dish." His wife responded with affection, "You always have a knack for transforming even the simplest of meals into something truly special." This heartwarming story illustrates how the seemingly small moments in our lives, such as the act of shopping for fresh ingredients or the thoughtful gesture of cooking for someone we love, can be significant sources of happiness. It also highlights how a simple question can often lead to engaging and informative conversations. By actively listening to these real-life narratives, you'll begin to internalize the natural rhythm and vocabulary of everyday English. Now let's transition to a different scenario. Our next story revolves around Sarah and her husband Michael. Sarah and Michael are in the midst of planning an eagerly anticipated vacation. For months, they had dreamt of escaping to the tranquility of the beach, and the opportunity had finally arrived. Sarah excitedly said to Michael, "Let's finalize the booking for our trip next month. I absolutely cannot wait to unwind by the ocean." Michael responded with equal enthusiasm, "That sounds absolutely perfect. I've been really looking forward to some much-needed time off as well." Together, they decided to reserve a charming hotel situated close to the sandy shores. Sarah then pondered aloud, "What kind of activities are you envisioning us doing while we're there?" Michael replied, "I'd love to spend some time swimming in the ocean, and maybe even try my hand at surfing. What about you?" Sarah smiled contentedly and said, "For me, it's all about soaking in those beautiful sunsets and simply relaxing on the warm sand." In this delightful story, Sarah and Michael are collaboratively planning something exciting, using straightforward, everyday English to discuss their upcoming vacation. Much like in our first story, you can observe how individuals utilize language in casual, friendly exchanges. Let's continue our exploration with a slightly longer narrative, which will provide you with further practice in listening to the nuances of everyday English. Remember, consistent listening is key. The more you expose your brain to the natural flow of the language, the more adept you will become at understanding it effortlessly. Let's begin our next story, which features a man named Daniel and his wife, Lisa. They make their home in a cozy apartment nestled in the vibrant city of Chicago. Daniel earns his living as a dedicated delivery driver, while Lisa works as a caring nurse at a local clinic. Both lead demanding professional lives, often making it a challenge to find moments to simply unwind and enjoy each other's company. One particular weekend, they both felt a strong urge to escape the city bustle and decided to embark on a short trip to the serene countryside. They yearned for the fresh air and the tranquility that nature offers. On a Friday evening, after Daniel had completed his deliveries for the day and Lisa had returned home from her nursing duties, they thoughtfully packed a small bag containing essential clothing, some tasty snacks, and a few engaging books. Lisa suggested, "Let's aim to leave early in the morning so we can have the entire day to immerse ourselves in the outdoors." Daniel nodded in agreement and added, "Good idea. I'll make sure the car is all ready to go tonight so we don't have to feel rushed in the morning." The following morning, they set off just as the first rays of sunlight painted the sky. The roads were peacefully quiet, and the weather was absolutely perfect. The sky was a clear canvas, and the sun ascended slowly, casting a warm glow. As they drove, they engaged in heartfelt conversation, discussing various aspects of their lives, their work days, their friendships, and their aspirations for the future. It was a truly peaceful drive. Lisa gazed out of the window and remarked, "It feels like ages since we've done something like this." Daniel smiled warmly and replied, "Yes, we really were in need of this." After approximately 2 hours of driving, they arrived in a charming small town, picturesquely surrounded by rolling farms and gentle hills. A quaint little diner stood invitingly on the main road, and they decided to stop there for a leisurely breakfast. The diner had a simple yet welcoming ambiance. A kind-hearted woman named Carol greeted them with a warm smile and said, "Good morning. Please, find a seat anywhere you like." Daniel and Lisa chose a cozy spot near the window. They placed their order for fluffy pancakes, perfectly cooked eggs, and refreshing fresh orange juice. While they waited for their breakfast to arrive, Daniel glanced around the diner and commented. After breakfast, they enjoyed a leisurely walk through the nearby fields. The air was invigoratingly fresh, and they could hear the delightful melodies of birds singing. They strolled slowly, savoring each moment of peace and tranquility. Lisa took a deep, refreshing breath and exclaimed, "This is precisely what I needed. Just quiet, clean air, and absolutely no noise." Daniel echoed her sentiment. "Same here. I think we should make this a more regular occurrence. It really helps us to reconnect and recharge." Later that afternoon, they explored a small, vibrant farmers' market located in the town square. Local vendors were proudly displaying and selling a variety of fresh produce, including colorful vegetables, freshly baked bread, fragrant honey, and unique handmade crafts. Daniel purchased a jar of golden, locally sourced honey and a warm, crusty loaf of bread. He complimented the seller, "This looks absolutely amazing. We don't get bread like this back in the city." The friendly old man behind the table smiled warmly and replied, "Made it myself, fresh this morning." Lisa also found a beautiful hand-woven basket, crafted by a woman named Jenny. Jenny shared with a smile, "My mother taught me how to make these when I was just a kid. It takes a lot of time and care, but I truly love it." Lisa was deeply impressed and said, "It's absolutely beautiful. I'll find the perfect place for it in our kitchen." After wandering around the market for a while, Daniel and Lisa found a comfortable bench beneath the shade of a large leafy tree. They shared the delicious bread and honey they had purchased and enjoyed watching children playfully running and laughing in the nearby park. Daniel looked at Lisa with affection and said, "I know we both lead busy lives, but let's really try to make these little trips a monthly tradition." Lisa responded with a warm smile, "I would absolutely love that. It helps us remember what truly matters in life." This story beautifully illustrates how couples can utilize simple, everyday English to articulate their thoughts, feelings, and plans. They aren't relying on complex vocabulary, instead, they communicate with honesty and ease. These kinds of conversations unfold every single day, and by listening attentively, you can significantly enhance your understanding of how to use English naturally and effectively. Now let's tune into another person's experience. Her name is Emily. Emily is a dedicated stay-at-home mom with the joyful responsibility of raising 2 young children. Her husband, Robert, works diligently as a mechanic. Every morning, Robert rises early to head to the garage, while Emily's day begins with the delightful chaos of getting the kids ready for school. She prepares their breakfast, packs their lunches with care, and walks them to the school bus stop. One particular morning, Emily noticed that her youngest child, Josh, seemed uncharacteristically sad. He showed little interest in eating his breakfast. She gently sat down beside him and asked with concern, "What's wrong, Josh?" He looked downcast and mumbled, "I forgot to do my homework." Emily responded with calm reassurance, "It's okay, sweetie. Let's quickly work on it together before the bus arrives." They opened his notebook and diligently worked through the pages as quickly as they could. After a few focused minutes, a smile returned to Josh's face and he said, "Thanks, Mom." Emily kissed his forehead tenderly and replied, "You're very welcome. Just try your best to remember next time." Later that day, while the children were at school, Emily busied herself with household tasks. She cleaned the house meticulously and folded the laundry with care. She also thoughtfully prepared a list for her upcoming grocery shopping trip. In the afternoon, she joyfully picked up the kids from school and took them along to the grocery store. While walking through the aisles, her daughter asked, "Mummy, can we get some strawberries?" Emily replied, "Of course, but only if they look nice and fresh." At the checkout line, the friendly cashier remarked, "Looks like someone's planning to cook something delicious tonight." Emily chuckled and replied, "Yes, my husband absolutely loves my pasta dish with fresh vegetables." The cashier smiled warmly and said, "That sounds absolutely delightful." That evening, Emily lovingly prepared dinner, and the whole family gathered around the table to share the meal. Robert looked at Emily with appreciation and said, "You know, I'm really proud of you, Emily. You do so much for all of us." Emily smiled gratefully and said, "Thank you, Robert. It means a lot to hear you say that." From this heartwarming story, you can clearly hear how people communicate in a warm and natural way. They ask questions with genuine interest, provide thoughtful answers, and express care and appreciation for one another. These are all incredibly useful aspects to practice in your own English speaking. The more you listen to these kinds of everyday conversations, the easier it will become for you to understand and confidently use these words and phrases in your own life. Just like Emily and Daniel, you too can learn to speak with both confidence and kindness. So keep listening closely. We have many more stories to share with you. Let's continue our journey of language learning with another engaging narrative. This next part is a longer, more leisurely paced story designed to help you attune your ear to the natural rhythms of real English as it's spoken in everyday life. The words and phrases you'll hear are simple, clear, and commonly used by people in their normal interactions. By consistently listening, your brain will become increasingly adept at understanding English without requiring conscious effort. So let's embark on a new story. This story introduces us to Brian and his wife, Michelle. They live in a peaceful neighborhood in Dallas, Texas. Brian dedicates his professional life to a local bank, where he serves as a customer service manager. Michelle works from the comfort of their home as a virtual assistant. Their daily routine provides a sense of order and organization to their lives. But as is often the case, small, unexpected surprises can sometimes lead to interesting changes. One Wednesday morning, Brian awoke at his usual time of 6:30 a.m. He reached out and gently turned off the alarm clock, then stretched languidly in bed. He glanced out of the window and noticed that a gentle rain was falling. "Looks like I'll be needing an umbrella today," he murmured to himself. He quietly slipped out of bed, careful not to disturb Michelle, who was still sound asleep. Let's continue with another story that will help you practice understanding everyday English. This time, it's about a woman named Sarah and her husband James. They live in a small town in North Carolina, and their life is characterized by simple, comforting routines. However, today something rather unexpected unfolds. Sarah works diligently at a local coffee shop. She finds genuine joy in the process of crafting coffee for the community, engaging in friendly chats with her regular customers, and starting her own day with a warm, invigorating cup of espresso. James is a dedicated history teacher at the local high school. He has a true passion for his subject and thoroughly enjoys his profession. Every day, they both wake up early, share a quick but meaningful breakfast together, and then set off to tackle their respective days. On this particular morning, Sarah awoke early, just as she always did. It was a serenely quiet day, and the soft sunlight streamed gently through the window. She stretched languidly and carefully got out of bed, mindful not to disturb James's peaceful slumber. She made her way to the kitchen, placed the kettle on for some hot water, and began the familiar ritual of preparing her breakfast. She was planning on making a comforting bowl of oatmeal, sweetened with a drizzle of honey, and accompanied by a side of fresh, seasonal fruit. As she busied herself in the kitchen, she reflected on the peacefulness of the early morning hours. James remained soundly asleep as Sarah finished her breakfast. She thoughtfully left a note for him on the kitchen table, which read, "Good morning, I've left your coffee on the counter." She smiled to herself, knowing that James would appreciate this small, thoughtful gesture when he eventually woke up. After her breakfast, Sarah grabbed her bag and headed out the door for her walk to the coffee shop. It wasn't far from their home, just a pleasant 10-minute stroll through their friendly neighborhood. When she arrived at the coffee shop, she was warmly greeted by her colleagues, Max and Emily. Max was known for his ever-present sense of humor and light-hearted jokes, while Emily was consistently friendly but possessed a quieter demeanor. They formed a cohesive and efficient team, and Sarah genuinely enjoyed their company. She began her shift by diligently preparing the morning selection of pastries and carefully checking the coffee machines to ensure everything was in perfect working order. Soon, the first customers of the day began to trickle in, placing their orders for morning lattes, creamy cappuccinos, and warm muffins. The coffee shop gradually became quite busy, but Sarah was well accustomed to the morning rush. Around mid-morning, Sarah's phone vibrated gently with an incoming message from James. It read, "Can you possibly swing by and pick up the mail? I completely forgot to grab it this morning." Sarah smiled to herself, knowing that James often had a lot on his mind. She quickly finished the task she was currently engaged in, grabbed her coat, and began her short walk back home to retrieve the mail. Upon arriving, she found a letter from the bank nestled in their mailbox. It had an official look about it, suggesting it might contain important information. Sarah carefully opened the letter and began to read its contents. It was a notification regarding an increase in their monthly mortgage payment. Sarah let out a soft sigh. She didn't want to cause James any unnecessary worry just yet. So she carefully tucked the letter into her purse, promising herself that she would look into the details later. She was determined not to let this news cast a shadow over their day. On her way back to the coffee shop, Sarah strolled past the local park. It was a truly beautiful day, and the park was alive with people enjoying the pleasant weather, individuals walking their dogs, and children filling the air with their joyful laughter as they played. Sarah decided to take a brief moment to sit on a nearby bench and simply enjoy the fresh air. She closed her eyes for a few peaceful minutes, allowing herself to be enveloped by the gentle sounds of birds chirping and the soothing rustling of leaves in the trees. When she finally returned to the coffee shop, she noticed that the morning rush had subsided a bit. Max and Emily were taking a well-deserved break, so Sarah took the opportunity to rest for a few minutes as well. They sat together in the back room, engaging in casual conversation about their plans for the upcoming weekend. Emily mentioned her desire to spend some time at the beach, while Max was contemplating a hiking trip in the nearby mountains. Sarah listened attentively, but her thoughts still lingered on the mortgage letter. After a while, Sarah received a call from James. He had just finished his teaching day at school and was on his way home. "How's your day been going?" he asked warmly. "It's been good," Sarah replied. "Busy, but okay. I need to talk to you about something when you get home." James, sensing a slightly serious tone, didn't press for details. "I'll be home in about 20 minutes. See you then." When James arrived home, he found Sarah sitting thoughtfully at the kitchen table, the bank letter lying before her. She hadn't yet fully opened it. James came in and gently kissed her on the cheek. "What's going on?" he asked, noticing the slight furrow in Sarah's brow. "I got a letter from the bank," Sarah said, her voice a little hesitant. "It's about the mortgage. They're raising the payment starting next month." James frowned slightly as he sat down beside her. "How much is the increase?" Sarah took a deep breath before answering. "About $150 a month." James paused for a moment, considering the implications. "Well," he said thoughtfully, "we can take a look at our budget and see where we might be able to make some adjustments. Maybe we can save a little more each month to cover it. I know it's not ideal, but we'll figure it out together." Sarah felt more at ease than before. They decided that they would discuss the topic in more depth over the weekend, but for now, she needed to prepare dinner. Sarah started making spaghetti with her famous marinara sauce, the aroma of which slowly filled the entire house. James lovingly set the table and opened a bottle of red wine, which would make their quiet evening meal even more special. During dinner, they didn't talk much. Both were feeling the fatigue of the day, but they enjoyed each other's company and the delicious food. It was a quiet and satisfying moment, where words were not needed. Just being together was enough. Later that night, after dinner, they sat on the comfortable sofa in the living room and started watching a movie. It wasn't an extraordinary film, just a light-hearted comedy, but the moments of laughter together strengthened the bond between them. Even though the day had started with some small worries, it ended with peace and contentment. Life sometimes brings small challenges, but sharing them with someone you love makes every difficulty easier. This story shows you how to talk about everyday life situations. Words like mortgage, budget, payment, and increase are so useful when discussing financial matters. The way James and Sarah faced their problem shows how couples communicate peacefully and support each other. They didn't make any hasty decisions, but tried to find a solution together. Listening to stories like this helps you learn everyday vocabulary and understand how people talk when they are facing minor challenges. Now let's focus on another story. This story is about Tom and his wife, Laura, who live in Chicago. Tom works as a software engineer, and Laura is a nurse at a local hospital. Both have busy routines, but they make sure to spend quality time together whenever possible. One evening, after Tom finished work, he and Laura decided to eat dinner out. They hadn't been out in a while, so they were both excited. They chose a small Italian restaurant in their neighborhood that they had wanted to try for a long time. The restaurant was cozy and had a warm atmosphere with soft lighting and some candles on each table. When they sat down, the waiter gave them the menus. Laura looked at the options and said, "I think I'll have the lasagna. What will you have?" Tom smiled. "I think I'll try the pizza tonight." They both ordered their food and started talking while waiting for their meal. Tom told Laura about his day, how he had been coding for hours, trying to solve a software update issue. Laura shared stories about her patience and how she had helped a woman give birth to a healthy baby earlier that day. Their food arrived, and they both took a bite. The lasagna was creamy and full of flavor, and the pizza had the perfect amount of cheese and tomato sauce. They both agreed that the food was amazing. As they ate, they talked about their plans for the weekend. Laura wanted to visit her parents in the countryside, and Tom was thinking of going on a hike with his friends. They both smiled at the thought of taking a short trip out of the city. After dinner, they walked back home together, enjoying the cool evening air. Laura took Tom's hand, and they simply enjoyed each other's company, talking about everything and nothing. It was one of those simple nights that reminded them how important it is to spend time with the people you love. This story is another example of how people talk in real life. The vocabulary is simple and easy to understand, and the conversation is calm and friendly. Tom and Laura use words like menu, order, meal, and hike in a normal conversation. These are common words that you will hear when people talk about food or plans with friends and family. Like other stories, listening to this kind of conversation will get you used to real English. You will start to feel more confident when you hear people in everyday situations. You will become better at understanding how people express their feelings and thoughts clearly, even when they are talking about simple things. Keep practicing, and soon you will find yourself speaking English more naturally. Okay, let's move on to another story that will help you practice your listening skills. This time it's about a couple named Steve and Emily who live in Los Angeles. They have been married for 5 years and have a small apartment in the city. They both work hard but also know how to make time for each other and enjoy the little things in life. One Saturday morning, Steve woke up early. He had a big project at work and wanted to get an early start on it, but Emily was still sleeping. She had worked late the night before, and Steve didn't want to wake her. He quietly got out of bed and went to the kitchen to make himself a cup of coffee. He loved starting his day with a warm cup of coffee. As he was sipping his coffee, Steve looked out the window. The sun was shining, and some people were outside walking their dogs. It was a beautiful day, and Steve felt grateful for the morning peace. He decided to go for a short walk before starting work. He didn't want to stay inside staring at a computer screen all day. He went out for a 20-minute walk in the neighborhood. The streets were quiet and Steve enjoyed the fresh air. He walked past a small park. When he saw a familiar face, it was Mrs. Rodriguez, an elderly woman who lived down the street. She was sitting on a bench, looking a little sad. Steve liked Mrs. Rodriguez. She always had a kind word for everyone. He decided to go over and say hello. "Good morning, Mrs. Rodriguez," Steve said with a smile. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" Mrs. Rodriguez looked up, and a small smile touched her lips. "Oh, good morning, Steve. Yes, it is a lovely day. Just enjoying the quiet for a bit." Steve sat down on the bench a little distance from her. "Everything all right?" he asked gently. Mrs. Rodriguez sighed softly. "Well, my cat Whiskers hasn't been feeling too well lately. I'm a bit worried about him." "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that," Steve said. "He's a great cat. How old is he?" "He's getting on in years," Mrs. Rodriguez replied. "He's about 15 now. I took him to the vet yesterday, and they gave me some medicine for him. I'm just hoping he gets better soon." "I'm sure he will," Steve reassured her. "You take such good care of him. Maybe he just needs a little time." They talked for a few more minutes about Whiskers and about the nice weather. Steve felt glad that he had stopped to chat with her. It seemed to have cheered her up a little. After a while, he stood up to leave. "Well, I should probably get going," Steve said. "I have some work to do. But I hope Whiskers feels better soon, Mrs. Rodriguez." "Thank you, Steve. It was nice talking to you," she said, her smile a little brighter now. Steve continued his walk, feeling good that he had connected with his neighbor. These small interactions were what made a community feel like home. When he got back to his apartment, Emily was awake and in the kitchen, making breakfast. "Morning, sleepyhead," Steve said, giving her a kiss on the cheek. "How did you sleep?" "Morning," Emily replied, smiling. "I slept great, thanks. Smells like coffee. Did you go for a walk?" "I did," Steve said. "It was lovely out. I even had a little chat with Mrs. Rodriguez. Her cat, Whiskers, isn't feeling well." "Oh no, poor Whiskers," Emily said, looking concerned. "He's such a sweet cat. Hopefully, he'll be all right." They ate breakfast together, talking about their plans for the day. Steve was going to work on his project, and Emily had a shift at the hospital later. They enjoyed their quiet morning routine before the busyness of the day began. This story shows how people connect in their daily lives. Words like neighbor, vet, medicine, and worried are common when talking about pets and community. These kinds of conversations happen all the time, and listening to them helps you understand how people express care and concern for others. These three stories, Sarah and James discussing their finances, Tom and Laura enjoying a simple dinner, and Steve checking in on his neighbor, all provide examples of everyday English conversations. They use common vocabulary and natural dialogue, which can help you improve your listening and understanding skills. By paying attention to how these characters express themselves, you can learn useful phrases and gain confidence in your own ability to communicate in English. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. I truly hope these tips have given you a fresh perspective and some actionable strategies to tackle the challenge of understanding native speakers. Remember, it's a journey, not a race. Be patient with yourself, celebrate every small victory, and keep practicing. Subscribe, like, share, comment below with your biggest listening challenge.